I surprised my family paid for vacation, but my sister decided to steal it. I paid for the vacation. I thought I was doing something nice, something everyone would appreciate. I had the money saved, and I was tired of seeing them struggle. I decided to surprise my family. They never treated themselves to anything nice. They didn't ask for it, but I figured, why not? They deserved it. I did all the work. I found a nice resort, booked the flights, arranged the excursions. The whole thing wasn't cheap, but it didn't matter. I wasn't going to let their financial troubles stop me from doing something good for once. I wanted to give them something they could look forward to, something they could enjoy for a change. I thought, finally, I'd done something right. The night before we left, I told them. Mom, Dad, and my sister all gathered in the living room. I figured I'd make it a big reveal, build up the excitement, you know? They looked at me like I had just told them I was pregnant with triplets or something. It wasn't the excitement I expected, but I told myself maybe it was just shock. Maybe they needed a minute to process it. Mom's face lit up. She was always the easiest to impress. Dad didn't seem too impressed, though. He was distracted by some work email, barely even paying attention. But my sister? She was the one who threw me off. She didn't say much. She didn't even look excited. She just gave me one of those half smiles, the ones that don't reach the eyes. I could tell something was wrong, but I brushed it off. I didn't want to ruin the moment. I was excited. This was supposed to be fun. We flew out the next morning. I kept the surprise to myself because I wanted it to feel like a real escape. No more stress, no more problems. The kind of vacation you don't have to cancel halfway through because someone's job or health gets in the way. But the second we landed, the energy shifted. I didn't want to overthink it at first. It was probably just nerves. We were in a new place, and everyone reacts to change differently. But it didn't take long before I realized something was off with her. It wasn't obvious at first. Little things, like when I mentioned how nice the resort was, she'd just nod and say, "Yeah, it's fine." No real enthusiasm. Not like I expected. But I ignored it. It was too early to assume anything was wrong. By the second day, it started to get worse. She didn't seem to want to do anything with the rest of us. I asked if she wanted to join for lunch, and she just muttered, "I'll just stay here." I let it slide because it was her choice, but it stung a little. I was trying to make this special, and she wasn't even pretending to care. Things escalated when I caught her on the phone late that night. She was speaking quietly, but I overheard enough to know it wasn't a casual conversation. I couldn't make out the words, but I heard the tone, sharp, irritated. The moment I walked into the room, she snapped the phone shut. That's when I started to feel something in my gut. Something was going on, and I wasn't sure I wanted to know what it was. The next day, she barely looked at me. When I tried to talk to her, she gave me short answers, her attention fixed on something else. I couldn't tell if it was the vacation itself she didn't want or if it was me. I tried to play it cool, but inside, I was already wondering what had happened. What had changed? On the third day, I decided to confront her. I wasn't going to let it fester. I didn't want to drag this vacation down by pretending everything was fine when it clearly wasn't. But when I tried to talk to her, she shut me down immediately. "I'm fine," she said, her voice tight. "Just tired." She didn't even look at me. I didn't push it any further. If she didn't want to talk, fine. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. She wasn't herself. And as much as I tried to focus on enjoying the trip, I couldn't ignore the growing tension between us. By the fourth day, the frustration started building in me. Why was she being like this? I couldn't figure it out. I kept going through every possible scenario in my head, trying to come up with a reason for her behavior. Had I done something wrong? Had I made some mistake that I wasn't aware of? I'd been so sure that this vacation would be a good thing for everyone, and yet, here I was, second-guessing myself. I tried to talk to my mom about it, but she didn't seem to notice anything. She was too caught up in the activities and enjoying herself. I guess that's what mothers do, right? They don't see the small things that stick with you. They don't see the way your sister rolls her eyes every time I say something, the way she avoids me like I'm the cause of all her problems. By the 5th day, I started to feel that familiar weight, the kind that comes with being the one who cares too much. My sister wasn't talking to me. She wasn't talking to anyone. She wasn't enjoying the trip, and neither was I. It felt like a failure. Like I had thrown money away, thinking I could fix something, only to make everything worse. I thought about leaving. I seriously considered just packing up and going home. I thought maybe she'd snap out of it if I wasn't around, but that felt like giving up. So I stayed. I wanted to fix it, wanted to believe that I could still salvage this vacation, even if my sister had already decided it wasn't worth her time. But as the days went on, I realized that I couldn't fix this. She wasn't going to change, and I wasn't going to change her. So I did what I always did. I bottled it up. I let her get away with it. I stayed quiet, pretending everything was fine while it slowly fell apart. I wasn't sure when the last straw came. Was it when I saw her leave the resort early, claiming she was going to a spa, but disappearing for hours without telling anyone? Or was it the way she stared at me in the airport, like I was the one who had ruined everything? I didn't know. But by the time we got home, I knew one thing for sure. This vacation had not been the gift I thought it would be. And somehow, in all of that, I lost more than just money. I lost a little more trust. And with it, maybe a little bit of myself too. It's hard to ignore something when it's staring you in the face. And the longer I spent with my sister on that trip, the clearer it became. She wasn't just in a bad mood. She wasn't just tired or frustrated. She was hiding something. I couldn't tell if it was directed at me or if it was just part of whatever mess she had created in her own life, but I was done pretending I didn't notice. The first few days back home were just as bad. The silence between us grew thicker. My mom was still oblivious, lost in her own little world, and my dad was wrapped up in his usual distractions. I found myself questioning whether I had ever really known my sister. Sure, we fought like any siblings, but this felt different. This was something deeper. Something I couldn't put my finger on. She kept her distance, but it wasn't just the physical distance. It was the way she acted like nothing had happened, like the vacation hadn't even been a thing. I felt like I was the only one who remembered it, and I couldn't understand why she wasn't talking about it, why she wasn't acknowledging what had clearly gone wrong. A few days after we got home, I couldn't take it anymore. I needed answers. I told myself I wasn't going to let this fester. I wasn't going to let her treat me like this without knowing what had happened. So I went to her room. I knocked, but I didn't wait for an invitation. I didn't care if it made her mad. I needed to know. She didn't even look up when I walked in. She was on her bed, staring at her phone. Her room was quiet, except for the soft hum of the air conditioning. It felt tense. She could feel it too. "Hey," I started, trying to keep my voice steady. "We need to talk." She didn't respond, but I saw her stiffen slightly. That's when I knew I wasn't imagining it anymore. She was avoiding me on purpose. She was making sure I didn't get too close. I wasn't sure what her game was, but I wasn't going to let her keep me in the dark. "I'm not going to sit here and pretend everything's fine," I said, trying to keep my anger under control. "You've been acting like an asshole since we got back. What's going on?" Her fingers twitched slightly as she held the phone, but she didn't look at me. "I'm fine," she muttered, barely audible. I wasn't having it. "No, you're not. Something's going on, and I want to know what it is." She finally looked at me, her face blank, like she'd rehearsed this moment in her head 1,000 times. I told you. I'm fine. Just tired. Bullshit, I shot back. You've been shutting me out ever since we got there. And don't pretend you don't know it. What's your deal? Why are you acting like this? For a moment, there was nothing but silence. The kind of silence that builds walls. Then she dropped her gaze back to her phone, her voice so cold it made my skin crawl. It's not that big of a deal. I stood there, trying to figure out what she was hiding. She wasn't going to just let it go, was she? I didn't believe her for a second. And I wasn't going to just walk away without answers. Is this about the vacation? I pressed. Because that's the only thing I can think of that's different. You've been weird about it from the moment we landed. What's going on? Her lips tightened, and I could see the flicker of something, regret, guilt, or maybe anger. But whatever it was, she wasn't going to give me an answer. I was wasting my breath. Drop it, okay? She said, her voice sharper now. Just drop it. I should have walked away then, but something in me snapped. I wasn't about to let her act like this and pretend it wasn't a big deal. She owed me an explanation. More than that, I owed it to myself to get the truth. No, I said firmly. I'm not going to drop it. What's going on? There was a long pause, and for a moment, I thought maybe she'd say something. Maybe she'd crack, tell me what was really going on. But instead, she let out a long sigh, almost like she was tired of pretending. Then, she said something that hit me harder than anything else. I don't want to go on vacation with you anymore, she said, her eyes dark. I don't care about that trip. I don't care about anything you do for us. You think you can fix everything with money, but you can't. You think paying for a vacation is going to make up for everything, but it's not. It's never enough. That was the turning point. Everything I'd been brushing off, all the little signs, suddenly made sense. This wasn't about me being a good sister. It wasn't about my surprise vacation. It was about something bigger. Something deeper. She was angry at me for something I didn't even know I'd done. But at that moment, I knew there was no fixing it. Her words didn't just sting. They hit deep, in a place I didn't even realize needed healing. The truth was ugly, and for the first time, I understood it wasn't just about the trip. It was about something I couldn't fix, no matter how much I tried. I turned and walked out of her room, the weight of her words sitting on my chest like a rock. I wasn't sure what to do with all of this yet, but one thing was clear. I wasn't going to keep putting myself out there for someone who didn't even appreciate it. The rest of the night was a blur. I tried to pretend like everything was fine, like I hadn't just been sucker punched in the gut. But I couldn't get her words out of my head. It's never enough. It felt like a death sentence. I thought about what to do next. I thought about the vacation. The money I spent. The time I wasted. The fact that, no matter how hard I tried, it wasn't going to fix anything. But what was I supposed to do now? Where did I go from here? I had no idea. I only knew one thing. Things would never be the same again. I spent the next few days pretending everything was fine. I could hear her moving around in the house, see her hanging out with Mom and Dad like nothing had happened. But I couldn't forget her words. They echoed in my head every time I looked at her, every time she walked by. It's never enough. I'd hoped that maybe it was a one-time thing, that she'd wake up the next morning, realize she was being a brat, and apologize. Maybe even come to me and admit she was wrong, but that didn't happen. Instead, she just kept her distance, and I kept swallowing it. I swallowed the anger, the hurt, the confusion. I let it sit with me like a tumor, growing in the back of my mind. A few days later, I couldn't take it anymore. I had to do something. So, I decided to take a walk around the neighborhood, clear my head. Maybe I'd get some space from the house, from her, from everything. I didn't know what I was looking for, but I was desperate to find something that would make me feel better. I didn't expect to bump into Mom while I was out. She was walking the dog, and as soon as she saw me, she waved. I thought, for a moment, I might ignore her. I didn't really want to talk to anyone. But I was tired of hiding, tired of pretending I had it all together, so I stopped. I made a choice to talk to her, to tell her what had been going on. Maybe it would make things clearer. Maybe it would help me understand what had gone wrong. "So how's everything going?" she asked, the same innocent question she'd asked 1,000 times before. I almost laughed. Everything was going great. My sister hated me. I was losing money on a vacation that no one appreciated, and I was walking around pretending like nothing had changed. But I didn't say any of that. Instead, I shrugged. "Fine." She didn't seem convinced. "You sure? You look off." "I'm fine," I said, but it was a lie. She knew it. I knew it. "Come on," she said, stopping in her tracks. "You can tell me anything. What's going on?" I stood there for a second, torn. Part of me wanted to just blurt out everything. The trip, my sister's attitude, the way I felt like I was drowning in everything I was doing for them. But another part of me knew better. Mom wasn't going to understand. She never did. "I just don't get it," I said, my voice cracking a little. "I spent all this money, thought I was doing something nice for everyone, and all she does is treat me like crap. And Dad? He doesn't even notice. He's too wrapped up in his own stuff to care. I can't do this anymore, Mom. I can't keep pretending like everything's okay." Mom looked at me for a long time. She didn't say anything right away, and when she finally spoke, it wasn't what I expected. "You know," she said slowly, "sometimes you try so hard to fix things that you forget people don't always want to be fixed." The words hit harder than anything I could have imagined. Was that what I had been doing? Trying to fix things that weren't mine to fix? Trying to force my family into this picture-perfect mold, even when they didn't want it? I didn't respond at first. I just stared at her, trying to make sense of it. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized how much truth there was in what she said. I'd spent so much time trying to make everything perfect, trying to get my sister and the rest of my family to see how hard I was working for them, but none of it had mattered. I'd missed the point. And it wasn't about the vacation, or the money, or the trip. It was about something deeper. Something I hadn't wanted to see. I didn't get any closure that day. No grand epiphany or heartfelt conversation that made everything better. Instead, I just went home, sat on the couch, and scrolled through my phone like nothing had changed. But I felt different. I felt like I'd been handed a harsh truth, one I didn't want to face, but couldn't ignore anymore. My sister and I didn't talk about the vacation. We didn't talk about anything. It was like that part of our lives had never existed. I don't know if that's what she wanted, but it's what I ended up accepting. I wasn't going to keep fighting for someone who didn't care enough to meet me halfway. So I stopped. I stopped fighting. I stopped caring about the vacation, the money I'd spent, or the way my sister had treated me. It wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth the stress, the emotional baggage, or the distance that had grown between us. I couldn't fix it, and I didn't want to keep trying anymore. Things didn't get better with my sister. If anything, they stayed the same, but I was done pretending. I was done pretending that I could fix everyone's problems, that I could somehow make everything right. I was done trying to be the one who held everything together, when no one else seemed to care enough to help. I don't know if that was a win, but it was the only choice I had left. I learned that trying to fix things for people who don't appreciate it only leaves you feeling worse in the end. And sometimes, the only thing you can do is let go. But that doesn't mean everything gets better. It just means you move forward with a little more clarity and maybe a little less hope. So that's what I did. I moved forward.